England's team for the Rugby World Cup semi-final has been announced. We've got all the teams for the semi-finals right now. England's was the final one, and this is my final video before I head back to Paris. I am going to finish this and use this phone to get myself a taxi straight to the airport, and the closer I get to the games, the more and more excited I am. I mean, a lot of people have said these semi-finals are going to be boring, it's a write-off, we know who's going to make the final. Hey, it probably will end up being, in all probability, New Zealand against South Africa. But you never know, and the closer I get, the more excited I get. I've even gone, I forgot I even had this, I've gone and dug out my England jersey, the one England jersey I own. I think it's older than I am, but why not? If you can't get excited about your team being involved in games like this, what's the point in being a fan of rugby? So as for the England team, then let's have a quick look and, move myself out of the way. 3 changes for England. Freddie Steward is in for Marcus Smith. No surprise there, as soon as we heard that Marcus Smith was injured. We'll never know if Freddie Steward was going to come back in the team anyway. I suspect he probably will have done, but I was wondering whether it may be on the wing with Marcus Smith continuing at fullback. So England have a very good back 3 aerially. I think it's the best 3 players they could pick. Not the best 3 players they could pick. It's the best 3 players they could pick to do a very particular job, which is chasing and receiving kicks. I think that gives us a bit of an insight. Joe Marler starts at loosehead prop. Ellis Genge rotated to the bench. That looks like a set-piece scrummaging decision. And George Martin gets a start, massive for him in only his 8th cap, with Ollie Chessum on the bench. And again, it's easy to look at who's starting, who's on the bench, and take that as a first choice, second choice, and people will be going, why is Ollie Chessum on the bench? He's one of our best players, what's going on? But it's about doing a particular job, and George Martin is probably England's best defensive forward. So England have a back 3 that are really good aerially, probably the best scrummaging front row they could select. Whether it's still good enough to match South Africa is another question, and the best defensive forward on the pitch to start the game. If that doesn't tell you the way England are going to play, I don't know what will. And I think possibly there'll be a lot of negativity, which there is surrounding this England team from fans. There'll be a lot of negativity, but I quite like the selection. I mean, would I rather go back in time and build a game plan where players like Zach Mercer are more central to England's plans? Of course. But that's for another day. Right now, with the 33 men they've got available in the squad and with the opposition that stands in front of them, the world champions and heavy favourites, the Springboks, I actually think Steve Borthwick has probably picked the right team to do the right plan to give England the best chance of making a World Cup final. Whether they will or not, that's another matter altogether, but to give them the best possible chance. So England are going to kick a lot. England, I'm telling you, England are going to not want the ball. They're going to kick deep, and England's territorial stats, one stat from the Rugby World Cup, England have the best territorial stats of any team at the World Cup in the 5 games so far, as a percentage. That's just a fact. So England will try and get the ball deep into South African territory and try and back their defence to contain them and maybe earn penalties and keep the scoreboard ticking over 3-6-9. And they're just going to have to put in a monumental defensive effort. When you look at the 2 teams, and I have got a combined team coming up in a little bit, I do think it's England's best chance of progressing. It might not be glamorous, it might not win us fans, but then again, unless England don't have any fans outside of England fans, and even some of the England fans don't even like England. And I want to have a word about that, actually. Let's talk about that for a second. But before I get into a little rant, let me just say I'm Tim, this is Egg Chasers, and I've been following the World Cup journey in France since the start of September. If you're just finding me, please hit subscribe on the channel because there's much more coming. As I say, I'm going to be in Paris later today for the semi-finals and for the final, which I cannot wait for. But give the video a thumbs up and leave your comments as well. What do you make of England's team? Do you agree with me that it's actually pragmatically probably a good selection from Steve Borthwick to try and do the job that they're going to need to do? Now, here's one thing. I was thinking about this since I was looking at the South Africa team earlier, And there's one of the comments, and I love the comments I get on this channel, some like brilliant rugby fans. And one comment, I apologise, I forget your name, but you'll know who you are, said that South Africa are playing with a purpose. There's a higher purpose to what they're doing. They're not just going out there to try and win a rugby game or to win a Rugby World Cup. They've got more at stake. And what South Africa are trying to do is build, they've won the World Cup already. No South African team has ever done back-to-back World Cups, and that's the one thing New Zealand can say to South African fans is, yeah, you might have won 3 World Cups as well, but you've never gone back-to-back. If they win this time, they can put that rivalry to bed. They can make New Zealanders zip it forever, because South Africa will be out there on their own with 4 Rugby World Cups, and they will have done back-to-back World Cups, just like New Zealand did in 2011 and 2015. So South Africa are about building a dynasty, a legacy, making themselves maybe the greatest team of all time, up there with Richie McCaw and Dan Carter's New Zealand. So that's what they're about. What's England's mission? Other than just trying to win a rugby game, because that's what rugby players want to try and do, what is England's mission? And I was thinking about this, and do you know what they need to harness? What England's mission is 3 words: redemption, revenge even, and respect. It's very, very unusual in sport to get a second shot at something. Look at Johnny Sexton. He's going to have to live with the memory of that game against New Zealand for the rest of his life. That was the last opportunity he ever got on a rugby field. In the case of the England team, there's an incredible number of them who were there in 2019 in the Rugby World Cup final. And they've got a second shot that very few get. Courtney Lawes, Manu Tuolangi, Johnny May, Dan Cole, Joe Marler, Owen Farrell, and others. Elliot Daly. There's a bunch of them right across the park. Ellis Genge, Carl Sinclair, Jamie George. A huge number of them were there in 2019. And they have a chance at redemption, at revenge if you want to go there. And the respect word I say is that, so I was in Marseille for the quarterfinals at the weekend, and I watched and I listened to Owen Farrell get booed when his name was announced before the game. And not booed by Fijian fans, there weren't many of those there. Not booed by Welsh fans, there was quite a few of them there, and yeah, they were supporting Fiji, and maybe some of them did boo Owen Farrell. He was booed by England fans. And that kind of hurt me a little bit in the pit of my tummy. Don't boo Owen Farrell. Like, you may disagree with the selection from Steve Borthwick, but to boo a guy with 110 caps, who is one of the greatest players ever to wear this, for real, not just a supporter pulling it on to support. He's actually worn that rose and he's earned it 110 times. One of the greatest players ever to play for England, the record point scorer, our captain, who's in a World Cup semi-final. I really hope I don't hear boos for Owen Farrell on Saturday night, because hey, each to their own. If you paid to get to Marseille and you paid for your match tickets, you're entitled to express yourself however you want. Same goes for people that are in Paris this weekend. It's just not something I would do. And I don't think it's something any South African would do for their player, whatever they thought about selection. I just don't think they would do it. So I despair a little bit at some England fans, because here we are. Yeah, some would say, oh, you're lucky to be here, all the rest of it. Yeah, we haven't played a real top team yet. And we're going to on Saturday night. And if England make a final, they'll have earned it every bit as much as any other team that's ever made a World Cup final. They'll have earned it. And they've done all that they can do up to this point, winning 5 games to get to a semi-final. So, look, there's lots I'm not happy with about the English game, about the running of it, the RFU, the administration, the style of play, some of the selection, all the rest of it. But that's all for another day. Our team, and I'm talking as an Englishman right now, our team is in a World Cup semi-final. And I almost think it's disrespectful to France and to Ireland, who were desperate to have been here as well, and Wales and Fiji. It's disrespectful to those teams if you don't enjoy the fact we're here and just have a crack and get behind your team. So anyway, rant over. But that kind of passion and that fire in the tummy is what England are going to need to fire them up. That memory of 4 years ago, to try and draw something out of themselves that they haven't been able to do up until this point. I think there are some players in the England side that are underrated, whether that's by England fans or by people around the world. I think Courtney Lawes is underrated. I think Owen Farrell is underrated. I think there are players that have underperformed in an England jersey and are capable of finding something in themselves to do much, much better. And in a one-off game, that is possible for Maro Itoje, for Tom Curry, for Manu Tuolangi, for Freddie Stewart, for Ellis Genge, for Kyle Sinclair. It's possible. England have been criticised by their own fans for the style of play. I get it. But one of the most common things I hear at the minute, why aren't we picking Henry Arundel? Why aren't we picking Henry Arundel? As if picking Henry Arundel is going to mean you're going to beat a team like the Springboks. Guess again. Not a chance. If we try and play that sort of rugby against South Africa, we will get crucified. So again, to go back to this selection, I think this is England's best shot at a victory. I'm not expectant of an England victory. I think if we played the game 10 times, England might win one of them. So maybe give us a 10% chance, but it's a chance. And I think the team that Steve Borthwick has selected probably gives us the best chance. And I would finally say on the England side, that's quite an impactful bench. It's kind of our own version of a bomb squad, if you like. Theo Dan, Ellis Genge, Kyle Sinclair, Ollie Chessum. That's some attacking forward weapons that can come on. Danny Care-George, Ford, Ollie Lawrence, the same. I like it in that sense. So, right, that was a bit of a rant. Sorry about that. So my combined team, there it is. It doesn't make pretty reading if you're an England fan, because I've only picked 3 Englishmen in a combined 23-man squad, the entire South African bench, all but Owen Farrell in the back line. I think South Africa. Right, here's the thing. I think if Owen Farrell were South African, their fans would absolutely love him. They would love him. I think he's the best 10 starting in either side in the 46 men. So I've picked him in my back line. The rest of it is all South Africa. And in the forwards, Courtney Lawes, I think, has earned his spot there. Maro Itoje, I recognise I'm kind of picking on reputation, not form. So Franco Moster, I thought was brilliant in the semi-final. I don't know why. I just feel like I could back Maro Itoje in a one-off game, and for that reason I've given him the nod there. But it does not make good reading if you're an England fan. I recognise that, and it says to me that this is very much South Africa's game to lose. And I think if South Africa just do their job, they will win this game. They're going to need to underperform and make some mistakes, and England are going to have to bring the game of their life if it's going to be anything other than South Africa going on into a final. That's my thoughts. Leave me yours. Tell me what you think, and I will see you on the next one. I'm on my way to Paris right now. I'm going to finish this coffee, get on my way, and thank you very much for your support.